Marie of France was the Duchess of Champagne. She was the daughter of Eleanor of Aquitaine and her first husband, Louis VII. And much like her mother, as Marie took very much so after Eleanor, she decided that she was going to have this beautiful court of love and this place where it would be an artistic enclave. She was a big supporter of artists, of poets, of all sorts. And two of the most famous writers of the period lived at her court. There was Chrétien de Troyes, and there was also Andreas Capellanus. I do not know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but he wrote The Art of Courtly Love, which is, the Courtly Love Manifesto. It tells you exactly what it is. It tells you exactly how to live by the tenets of the courtly love tradition, which so ties in with Arthurian legends and which so ties in with royal history. So, two of my obsessions. It's a very important book, and I mean, I got my copy on Goodreads for a few bucks. I'm sorry, my copy on Thrift Books for a few dollars. It's well worth it to go and search it out and find a copy. I I love my copy. And anyway, so Chrétien de Troyes, though, was specifically writing Arthurian romances, and he is credited with, well, two things that he did that were really important to the Arthurian canon. One doesn't apply so much to today's talk, but I do want to mention it, and that is he was the first person to bring Lancelot into the Arthurian canon. That is right, Lancelot did not exist before Chrétien de Troyes in the 13th century. That may be shocking. We had written Arthurian legends 100 years before this. Lancelot didn't exist. And the earlier oral traditions, Lancelot did not exist in these traditions. Yes, Guinevere had lovers. Yes, she was taken hostage by people. Yes, all this stuff still happened. But she had other lovers. Other knights were put into that slot. But once de Troyes decided it was Lancelot, it became Lancelot for all time. And very few authors deviate from that. Guinevere and Lancelot are this just seminal, romantic, sexy love story that people can't get enough of. And I get it. I love that love story too. I love Guinevere. She is my second favorite Arthurian figure. She's just this close, but Morgana is definitely number one. Anyway, so he brought Lancelot into these tales, and there are two differing stories. Some historians will state he took Lancelot from earlier French traditions and medieval romances that didn't involve the Arthurian canon, and he brought him into the Arthurian canon. Others say he actually invented the character of Lancelot. Either way, this is an important thing that he did. The second really important thing he did was he was the first guy to say, Arthur and Morgan are siblings. So, this tradition of Morgana le Fay being Arthur's sister is started. And I believe in the de Troyes version, she is his half sister on his father's side, which is different from a lot of other versions. Again, if I'm wrong and anyone knows, please correct me in the comments. I love to be told that I had this slightly off. I want to be as correct as possible in these videos. Anyway, so she would have been his half sister because she was also Uther's daughter. And she had been sent away. She's always sent away. And of course comes back, and she lives at the court of her brother when he becomes king, of King Arthur. But in the de Troyes version, she is still a benevolent healer. She uses her enchantress magic for good. She heals Arthur and his knights multiple times. That is her main role. In a way, it's sort of sad because she lost a lot in being brought to just being his sister, and she lost a lot of her autonomy. She was a queen in her own right. She had her own island's realm. She was powerful beyond belief. She's still powerful beyond belief, but right now, by the Chrétien de Troyes time, she is simply Arthur's little sister. Like, simply Arthur's sister. Little sister, older sister, I think older. In later versions, she's definitely older. But she's only at this point being described as a magical woman who is in relation to this great man. She is the sister of the king. It's sad. I mean, I'm not going to go on this tangent, but I will say it's sad that women are being described only as they are in relation to men. We don't, in the medieval time, you didn't see a man described in relation to a woman. But of course, for women, especially in a very Christian nation, these were written in France, you're described as you're related to the man. So I will digress from there. Next, I'm going to briefly talk about first the Vulgate and post Vulgate cycles, and then the alliterative and prose Morte d'Arthur. So, the next appearance we have of Morgana le Fay is the Vulgate and the post Vulgate cycles. The Vulgate is often called the Lancelot Grail cycle. The post Vulgate focuses more on the adventures of Merlin. And brief side note, the post Vulgate is also, I believe, the first reference to his love of the Lady of the Lake and being imprisoned by her. And I'm going to leave it at that. What I want to mention with the Vulgate cycle is it's one of the first times you're seeing the darkening of Morgana, her using her magic for evil. So that's very important. And also her hatred of Arthur is pretty well established in this. The other important thing, it doesn't really have to do with Morgana, but I love to mention it, is that this is a reference to Guinevere having magic. She is talked about as having magic and using magic in the Vulgate cycle. So that's a very interesting thing because I've always associated Guinevere as being part of the Avalonian tradition as well. She certainly was a goddess. She certainly follows the Celtic tradition of the flower